Thank you very much for the time. I want to take a review of the last 6 months of the Texas Medical Board from a public image standpoint. There's been radio ads talking about how the Texas Medical Board is out of control. Former cancer patients protested for 2 weeks straight outside of a SOA hearing saying, "Please stop harassing our doctor." Bookstores and movie theaters across Austin have showed documentary films which go into detail about some of the Texas Medical Board's more controversial decisions. My favorite one was at South Lamar Boulevard when over 100 people watched a film and nobody left afterwards because they wanted to talk about what to do next about the Texas Medical Board. More people are attending these meetings, and at a recent SOA hearing, it was professionally videotaped from 3 different angles and uploaded to YouTube. There were several gems, including Texas Medical Board's lead attorney, Amy Swanholm, saying, and I quote, "Obviously there are people above my pay grade who should discuss current Texas Medical Board policy." When asked the question by the judge, is it the Texas Medical Board's position that it's against innovative medicine? Now, you may not agree with these perspectives, but hopefully we can all agree that the Texas Medical Board has a serious image problem. To put it in another way, your image, in my opinion, is rapidly decaying at a rapid rate. Classrooms across Texas and at dinner tables across Texas, people are questioning the decisions that are being made. I've even heard you referred to, and I didn't make this up, I heard you referred to as the Texas medical bullies. I believe that this will continue to be a reality for y'all until you look at what I believe to be the root cause of this public image problem. And that's that, in my opinion, you've lost touch, and this is a concern of mine, that this board has lost touch with the average Texan. I don't think that our neighborhoods look like your neighborhoods. I don't think our children play with the same toys that your children play with. And I know that our children's parents don't have pharmaceutical companies paying for their lunches more than once a week. And I'm going to be polite today and not mention any names, but 2 members of this board have had an average of 1 meeting per week with pharmaceutical companies for the last 2 years. That's very concerning to the average Texas citizen. They don't understand that, how those same people can be holding accountable innovative doctors who cut into the profits of those same pharmaceutical companies. This may be normal in the medical world, but the average Texan sees this as a blatant conflict of interest. So I'm here today to propose an initiative that I think would be somewhat helpful. It's called the 1 Hour Away from the Ivory Tower Initiative, and I have some tickets here, and there's an email address. If any member of the board would like to talk with average citizens, or if any member of the board would like to talk with patients who their decisions are negatively impacting, I will happily organize that for you. And since some of you enjoy lunches, we'll provide you with a free lunch as well, and it will give you some insight into some of the negative reactions of the average Texan citizen toward the Texas Medical Board. Thank you for your time. I'll leave these up here. Thank you.
So, I'm Nick Reed, and I'm part of Frontier Liberty, and I deal with systemic abuses. There is an issue that I'm here to talk to you about that is not the first time that's been brought to the attention of this board. Maybe the first time for the new executive director, but this is the issue of the growing discrepancy between what is right and what is legal, or more specifically here, what is acceptable under the standard of care. You see, it's come to my attention, as I've mentioned, that there is a disciplinary policy that the Texas Medical Board is exercising against doctors for doing things that address patients' needs, which violates the standard of care. Yet by the time of license review has already become the standard of care. Yet the discipline is still being followed through with. The problem with this is this means that the standard of care was wrong, not the doctor. And this kind of policy encourages doctors to focus more on obedience to authority than it does focusing on the patients. It's a waste of hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars, and it makes all of the medical advancements that you and every other doctor study in school an act of civil disobedience in order to even happen. It makes all medical innovation unacceptable until the standard of care has already changed. But it can't change until somebody does something different, comes up with something new. The problem here is growing and the sun is setting on the standard of care. It will die if we cannot change the disciplinary policy so the doctors are not worried about coloring in the lines of the standard of care as much as they are focusing on treating patients and patients' needs. If we were to think of this, not in terms of our medical establishment or any of this macro, very difficult things to understand like policy enforcement, but in terms of your family, how do you want to raise children? Do you want to raise children that grow up to be eternally dependent on you to know right and wrong? Coming to you, Dad, what's right, what's wrong, is fire hot? When they're 30, or do you want them to be able to develop their own moral discrepancy, to be able to discern what's right and wrong themselves? This is a problem. It's not becoming of our society. We wouldn't introduce it into our families, and we shouldn't be introducing it into the medical establishment. This kind of disciplinary policy is more suitable for a communist dictatorship country than it is a free and open society. It needs to stop, and it needs to change. I urge you to change your policy to stop punishing doctors for medical innovation and for focusing on patients' needs rather than obeying the standard of care. It's very simple. You don't have to abolish the whole standard of care. All you have to do...
You're already over time. If you could wrap it up in the next few seconds. We're trying to give everyone a fair shake. Okay, so just wrap it up.
White coats don't make doctors.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Reed.
Greetings. My name is Mike with Cargil. I'm the owner of Central Texas Gunworks and also the executive director for Texas for Accountable Government. I'm here out of concern over a lack of transparency within the Texas Medical Board. I became familiar with the Texas Medical Board after reading an article in Austin Fit magazine. And since I've begun to look at the organization and have noticed a number of alarming practices, it seems the Texas Medical Board is operating as an agency that wants to look transparent, rather than an agency that wants to truly be transparent. Meeting minutes aren't posted in a timely manner, and you held your meetings on October 13th and 14th, and the minutes from the meeting on October the 14th are still not online. This is especially troubling because 3 different members of the public expressed concern about your practices in this meeting, and your October 13 meeting were not released until November the 2nd. This delay is unacceptable. The TMB didn't answer phone calls for a portion of the summer, and when concerned citizens called the phone number on your website during business hours, they were greeted with an answer machine message and no resource to talk to TMB employees. This here is also unacceptable. At your last meeting, a member of the public was robbed of 20 seconds of speaking time by your meeting chair after he attempted to ask a clarifying question before he began and was told, now you have 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. This rude treatment toward a tax-paying citizen who paid $12 in parking to talk with you is unacceptable. Members of the public are only given 3 minutes to talk and are told that they cannot ask questions, only make statements. My question is, if you're not even recording the questions in your meeting minutes, as was the case from your last meeting, and you're not responding verbally to concerns in the meeting, how do citizens know we're even being heard? It seems we're not being heard, and this is unacceptable. Your October meeting didn't start on time, and no announcement was made as to why, and no warning was given to members of the public who took the time out of work to express their concerns. If you had posted the 9:30 a.m. as the time, your agenda to allow the public for comment, then that time should be honored as opposed to leaving members of the public waiting. If you don't, you risk the people needing to leave and not hearing what they have to say. It seems though that the Texas Medical Board doesn't really actually want to hear what people have to say which is perhaps the larger issue. Thank you for your time. My name is Michael Cargil. I'm the Executive Director for Texans for Accountable Government.
Sheila and Hemphill with Texas Right to Know. We are citizen activists, advocacy groups on many issues, and today I'm here about our Texas Medical Freedom Initiative. In the workplace, I have been providing marketing and consulting assistance to the alternative complementary medical arena, be it scanning facilities, be it dentistry, be it naturopath, be it medical doctors. I have helped write business plans for this particular arena. I am perplexed that as these innovative doctors come up with viable, peer-reviewed research, when I go to write about it on their website, they go, oh, you can't write that. Why? It's true, it's rated. Oh, but they can come up on it and call it false, misleading, or deceptive. In the rules under physician administration, the term is you cannot provide false, misleading, or deceptive advertising. According to who? I've been working specifically on this particular issue for the last 8 months, interviewing many doctors, few of which I have gotten on video, the brave, that would even come out and talk about their situation. Most of them will tell me, but I can't speak about it because of their fear for retaliation. I'm shocked that the board still doesn't recognize Lyme disease in the state of Texas. I knew this was brought up in 2011 when they had the tick and infectious diseases bill, but the legislators tried to breed cover, and I'm very disturbed that this woman today is saying that this board is not recognizing Lyme disease in Texas. Title 22, Part 9, Chapter 200 of the Texas Administrative Code are standards for physicians practicing complementary and alternative medicine. This says that our physicians, I apologize, I was not prepared to hear these testimonies of people still suffering over Lyme disease, that if they flee this state, Governor Bush said when he was governor that we are losing $2 billion a year of patients fleeing Texas to other states to seek integrated care. There are over 78,000 physicians in this state, and I bet you there's not 1,000 of them that would dare to say they're integrated, meaning complementary alternative, for fear of retaliation, of trivial complaints that come to them as not following standard of care or negligence, because they don't have the right to know who the complaint is coming from, nor the conditions of the complaint. Those rules need to change. So I hope that this board takes this opportunity next week at the Sunset Commission to bring forth these issues that have been identified. And I really look forward to working with you. And I had a nice visit with Eric Ferrata, who was the author of the executive summary. And what brings me here today is that that statement said that the board has found no bias for or against any practitioner. Well, that's not true. They did it statistically, and that they did not look at individual cases. I've been interviewing the individual cases, and I look forward to sharing with it. I will give a report, and I guess I would give it to you.
And your time is up, so if you could wrap it up.
I appreciate it. I would say this from the rules, that physicians should be allowed a reasonable and responsible degree of latitude in the kinds of therapy they offer their patients. The board recognizes that patients have a right to seek complementary and alternative care. And from Rule 200.3, it says a licensed physician shall not be found guilty of unprofessional conduct or be found to have committed professional failure to practice medicine in an acceptable manner solely on the basis of employing health care methods complementary and alternative that we need in this state and keep our dollars in Texas. So thank you. And I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you. Coleman Hemphill, the same organization. And you have 3 minutes, sir.
Members of the board, members of the board, my name is Coleman Hemphill, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this morning. I'm optimistic about the upcoming legislative session and encouraged by the many Texans from around the state that are following the Sunset Review proceedings and are planning to attend the rally and steps of the Capitol next Friday. The priority of Texas Right to Know Medical Freedom Initiative is to promote competition reduce costs while maintaining the highest quality, innovative health care to patients. To do this, we must regain our medical freedom. In 2015, healthcare costs made up 28% of federal spending, and in Texas, Health and Human Services spending now surpasses public and higher education, making it the largest budget expenditure for the state. Across the board, healthcare costs have systematically risen, and we must acknowledge the inherent failings of the services currently being provided to patients and their doctors. We don't cure patients anymore. The U.S. health system spends a higher portion of its GDP on healthcare than any country in the world, but ranks 49th in life expectancy and health outcomes. Meaning, we continually treat more people with chronic disease, but rarely are people cured. When people receive a diagnosis, they are destined to a life of treatment and sickness with little hope of full recovery. 1 in 2 people in the United States are now projected to have cancer in their lifetime. 1 in 4 people now have diabetes in the United States. And neurological disease like Alzheimer's, MS, Parkinson's, epilepsy are exponentially increasing. There's been a 600% increase in neurological disease with women over the last 15 years. Infant mortality rates are increasing. I believe we're 30th in the world in infant mortality rates. And more of our children are experiencing autism, now 1 in 48 children based upon the most recent CDC numbers. To move forward, we must step back and evaluate how the standard of care has changed in the last 10 years, and one of the distinct attributes of this board over the last 10 years has been the sharp increase in investigations and sanctions against doctors and licensed practitioners practicing integrated and alternative care. This has resulted in fewer healthcare providers to service a growing population of chronically ill patients and higher fiscal and physical costs to patients. There were far more treatment options available to patients and many more practitioners available to provide care just 10 years ago. We need a system that allows our doctors, based on their knowledge and experience, to use all methods and modalities available to treat their patients. I believe that with the cooperation of this board and the direction of the people, the doctors, and the elected officials, we can solve these problems and create a new board, a more efficient board that focuses on quality of care, innovation, access to doctors, lower costs, and positive outcomes.
You could wrap it up, you're over time.
Every man's physical organization is his own, and he is charged with the responsibility of taking care of it. To do this properly, he needs knowledge of it, and to withhold this from him is another form of the old oppression, which decreed knowledge and power to the few, and ignorance and obedience to the many. The wealth of our state, the health of our people, is the wealth of our nation and our state. And history will be written on this topic, and you have the opportunity to be on the right side of history, to defend patients, to defend doctors that are doing the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hemphill.